Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadhati Shapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jatapadakamanam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Shagrajatam Sagana Raghunathan Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savatutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Shagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Vigapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prashabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchako Patarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Pyevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srila Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. Well, thank you all very much for gathering. Why be spiritual? First thing is, what does this mean, be spiritual? Sounds like something very vague, very touchy-feely, actually. Be spiritual, yes, I'm going to be spiritual. But why be spiritual? From another point of view, we are spiritual. When I speak of myself, not as Jayadvaita Swami or this person or that person, everyone is spiritual by nature, unless he's dead. Because after all, there's a difference between a living body and dead body. Anyone can see that. But what is that difference? Why doesn't the dead body listen to the talk and say, well, there's a point there. The dead body has no consciousness. Everything else is there. All the limbs, all the ingredients, but consciousness is missing. Consciousness is missing. And when consciousness is missing, then we say dead. And what is that consciousness? The materialists will say that it's an epiphenomenon of matter, that it's matter acts in very sophisticated ways to produce consciousness. We can do the same thing with our computers and so on. But it's not so. That's a bluff. No scientist, to my knowledge, has ever demonstrated how consciousness arises from matter. Has anyone seen any published papers or anything demonstrating how consciousness arises from matter? It's widely taught. It's widely assumed and just said, since we know that consciousness is merely an but has anyone demonstrated, yes, here's matter, and now all we do is ABC, and we have consciousness? No. Can talk a good game, but no one has actually shown such a thing. By consciousness we mean persistent individual awareness and experience. Persistent individual. I'm an individual, I have my consciousness. You're an individual, you have your consciousness. Mine doesn't match yours. I don't know what you had for breakfast this morning, and when you finished breakfast, I didn't feel full. So consciousness is individual. It's persistent. Now I'm 76. I was conscious from the get-go and for every year thereafter. So it's individual, it's persistent, and there's experience. There's awareness. I remember when I was 10. I feel hunger, I feel satisfaction, I feel curiosity satisfied. So there's consciousness there, which is different from just the outward manifestations of consciousness. When I see a red light, there's an experience there. And yes, I can rig up a simple machine with a photo sensor and a Raspberry Pi in the middle and an output machine. And when the red light appears, you'll get even a voice saying, "I see a red light." But there's no consciousness. There's no experience of a red light. So consciousness is the unique property of a living being. And when we say spirit, in Sanskrit that translates to Atma, and the Atma you can say is the spark of consciousness. The Atma is the spark of consciousness. In that sense, everyone in the room is spiritual because that's what we're made of. We're made of Atma, we're made of consciousness. We're not matter. We have, or you can say from the present, in the present moment, we're combinations of matter and spirit. Because my consciousness is spiritual by its very nature. Even if I'm a total materialist, my consciousness is spiritual. It's a spiritual thing. It's a characteristic of spirit or Atma. Use whatever term you like. But it's there, and it's, for lack of a better term, or since it's the term in the talk's title, it's spiritual. Consciousness is spiritual. And in the Bhagavad Gita also Krishna says, what are some of the characteristics? You can't cut it. You can't dry it up. You can't burn it. You can't blow it away. Can't drown it. Because it's not subject to those material interventions. I can cut an arm, I can you do all sorts of terrible things to it, burn it and what have you. Matter can be subjected to those conditions, but consciousness can't. You can't put it on your slide, you can't look at it under the microscope, you can't detect it with electronic instruments. It's of a different nature. And so these two natures at the present moment constitute who we are. We're consciousness, but wrapped up in matter. Wrapped up in matter, housed in bodies made of ordinary matter, which you can cut, you can dry up, you can blow away, you can measure, you can observe. And the body is always changing. At one time I had a child's body, now I have an old man's body. I can't bring back the child body or the young man's body. It's gone. But the consciousness persists. That means there's a difference between consciousness and matter. The one, the covering changes, and the other, consciousness, persists. Therefore, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that there's simply two different things. It's not that consciousness arises from matter. Matter is fundamental to reality, and consciousness is fundamental to reality. and the one doesn't reduce to the other. The consciousness can be considered superior because the body moves in response to consciousness. I say to my hand, come on, scratch my head, and the hand comes up and scratches my head. So the consciousness is the superior energy. All your plans, your enrollment in LSE, your plans for what you want to do when you get your degree, they're all functions of consciousness. And on the basis of that consciousness, you do things like your coursework and so on. So we're at present spiritual beings in material bodies, but that's problematic. It's problematic because the body gives us so many troubles. It gets old. It gets diseased. It dies. And who wants that? And then if we accept the notion of reincarnation, it goes through the whole thing again. And do we really want that? So there's an incompatibility, a discomfort surrounding our embodied condition. We get too hot, we get too cold, it gets too much, we get too much rain thrown at us, we get afflicted by droughts, we feel problems from other living beings giving us pain, we feel pains from our own bodies and minds. And who wants that? But these all arise because of our embodied state. It's the body that gets old, it's the body that gets diseased, it's the body that dies. So the real challenge of human life is to understand our spiritual nature and to understand what to do about the difficulties of material existence. Not this difficulty or that difficulty, and not the fact that there's cancer or the fact that there's totalitarianism or the fact that my girlfriend has jilted me. Or it's not that. Those are just items, line items. But where do we stand on the bottom line? At the end, what was our life about? I invested my full life's energy, and have I really addressed the fundamental issues that I face as a human being? And particularly as a human being, because the other creatures don't face it. The dogs don't say, well, you've raised an interesting question there. What is the purpose of my life? Why am I a dog, and why am I here? Outside their scope. But the human beings have that capability. And therefore the Vedic literature says that if we don't use that capability, then we're dvipada pashu. Dvipada pashu is an animal, and dvipada means two-legged. So that's our credit, that I've lived like an animal, but I have two legs. So if we're to be more than just two-legged animals, we're meant to use that capability for deeper inquiry, to address the real issues that come upon us. That doesn't mean that we neglect the physical body, that I don't eat, that I don't sleep, that I don't work. I can't even maintain my own body if I don't work. Spiritual doesn't mean I enter a fairyland where I float about, heedless of any material conditions. I'm just being spiritual. It means that I have a deeper understanding of my true nature, my inner nature, and I know how to act in such a way that during this embodied existence, I can address those issues. It's not just sentiment. I should be spiritual. It's better to be spiritual. Meditate for 5 minutes a day and you'll be more spiritual. Cool. No. There should be some genuine understanding of how to act in such a way that I make spiritual progress, or progress in understanding who I am, where I come from, understanding my nature with my connection with the source of everything. So the Bhagavad Gita addresses all these things. Krishna never tells Arjuna, my dear Arjuna, you're spiritual, don't fight. You're not the body, you're the spirit within the body, so don't fight. Just go off to the forest and meditate. You have a duty, you're a military man, fight. But fight in Krishna consciousness, fight in consciousness of me, fight with spiritual understanding. That's being spiritual. When Arjuna's fighting on the battlefield, he's being spiritual. And when he's telling Krishna, my dear Krishna, I can't fight, better to go off and be a beggar, better to go off and meditate in the forest, he's being nonsense. He's being just the opposite of spiritual. He's being a fool. So, by a careful understanding of Bhagavad Gita under proper guidance, one can understand all of these things. And then be genuinely spiritual, not just spiritual. Maybe that's what I wanted to say to start off, and might see if there's some questions.
Maharaj, you mentioned that us as humans have sort of a higher degree of consciousness than that of animals and plants. I was wondering, what qualifies us to have a higher level of consciousness?
I said that as human beings we have a higher capability than animals and plants. What qualifies us for that? Well, immediately what qualifies us is our physical embodiment. If you've got the body of a plant, there's just not too much you can do about it. You can't say, well, I've been miscast as a plant. I'm actually a professor. And therefore, no. The physical body limits what we can do. Even in practical affairs, leaving aside matters of higher consciousness. Because of this body, I'm not going to be a heavyweight prize fighter. It's not going to happen. Wrong body for that. If I'm an eagle, I'm going to fly. If I'm an ant, I'm going to crawl. If I'm an elephant, I'm going to sashay about side to side, move my trunk and knock some things down along the way. So according to the body, I'll have a certain set of capabilities. So the capability for deeper inquiry about one's purpose in life, about one's true nature, about how to avoid unhappiness ultimately, not just immediately. These are all available when we have this human embodiment, otherwise not. The same conscious being is present in all the bodies. The Atma is always the same, and it's present in whatever body it's present in. Just like if I'm on a bicycle or if I'm in a Porsche, I'm the same person. But put me in a bicycle, I'll go at one speed. Put me in a Porsche, I'll go a totally different way, because the equipment is different. Put me in an airplane and I'll really start moving. So the equipment gives me various capabilities even though I'm the same person. So that's the first answer. Then the next answer is, well, why am I in the human body? I think that was also inherent inherent in your question. Why do I have a body which gives me that opportunity? And one way to say it is, well, by good fortune. Another is that, according to the Puranas, we're gradually elevated from one lifetime to the next, to the next, to the next. Because as lower creatures, we always follow the laws of nature. We don't disobey them. You never see a tiger stealing oranges. And so we're gradually elevated till we get to the human life. Then, as human beings, we can use the human life for the human project, or we can use it for the same project that the animals use it for. To eat nicely, to sleep to our full satisfaction, to have sex as much as we like, and to guard against harm from others. If that's all we do, then again we're two-legged animals. And then in the next life, we may descend to the animal life. Hey, you got a human body and you used it to live as an animal. Why waste another human body on you? You're not going to use it. Right? So then, all right, take a lower body. Otherwise, if you took it seriously, maybe you didn't finish the project, but at least you began the project. Then, all right, take another human life and finish up the business. Otherwise, again, in this life, if I blow it, if I just use it for the animal project, then again I risk going down again and then having to work my way up.
When it comes to spirituality, it's about not just kind of living in this airy-fairy world of feeling spiritual. When we often think of spirituality, that's often the way it's portrayed, it's often the way it's presented, it's something that's liberating, it's experiential, it's creative, it's treated as kind of an art in some sense.
An art?
Art.
An art.
Yeah, rather than a science.
Yeah.
But your presentation indicates that it should be treated in a more scientific way.
Yeah.
So is spirituality an art, or is it a science?
Talked about it as being something not airy-fairy, but more practical, and so on. So is it more an art, or is it more a science? There's both to it. It's not just art in the sense of taking some paint and throwing it against a canvas and saying, ooh. It's not that kind of art. There's a methodical kind of art. I had in my family, there was a friend who played violin in the New York Philharmonic and made his own violins. And there was an art to it, but it was also a science. He had an oscilloscope and all of that so that he could measure where this instrument was going that he was making. So there's an art to it, and but there's definitely a science. It's a practical thing. At the end, there has to be a violin. It has to have frets. It has to be playable. It has to produce the sound. But it's not just fill in the blanks. Even in mathematics, from what I understand, and I have no talent for it, high-grade mathematics is perhaps the science. And yet, mathematicians will recognize a certain aesthetic quality to high-grade mathematics. It's more than just fulfilling requirements for an equation. There's a beauty to it when you get to really excellent mathematical work. But it's got to work. The equations have to be satisfied. Otherwise, it looked really beautiful, but it failed. So yes, both words could be used, but finally it has to be practical, and it has to be satisfying also. Is that okay? Thank you. Yes?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, first of all. Why would God or Krishna put us in this material world?
Why
In
would
the first place?
God or Krishna put us in the material world? The answer given by the teachers is that because we insist on it. We want to be in a world where we're in the center of things, where things are under our control, where I'm not beholden to any higher authority or power, where we're independent. We want that, where we can enjoy as we like. And here's the place. Every one of us is independent. Every one of us can do as we like. Everyone can we can all absorb ourselves in the project of enjoyment, whether it's by watching a movie or having sex or reading a book or making a lot of money or whatever it might be. We can dedicate ourselves to that. And we don't have to give thought to some abstract higher being or any of that kind of stuff. That's the material world. But it's an illusory world in several respects. One is that for all of our so-called independence, we're bound hand and foot. We're so, if you're so independent, never visit the bathroom again. We're totally subservient to the laws of material nature. And we may claim that we have no relationship to any higher being, any higher power. But even if we don't accept a God, we're subject to death. God is supposed to be all-pervading, all-powerful. Death meets the requirements. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Mitru sarvaharascha, I appear as death and I take everything away. So where's our independence? And where's our enjoyment? If you're going to LSE, you'll get a good job, definitely. You'll make a lot of money. But will you really enjoy? I have a student who used to work for Merck, the chemical company, and I get my intelligence, my information by asking people about things. So what are they working on? Antidepressants. That's the focus of their research, not exclusively, but very much, because 20% of Americans, 1 out of 5, is clinically depressed. And that's the richest country in the world. Anything you want, you press a button and the next day it's on your desk. You don't have to worry about a whole batch of prudish old rules. You can do anything you want. And 1 out of 5 of us is clinically depressed. And the other 4 are just depressed. What happened to the enjoyment? I sometimes move in circles where I'm connected with people who are very rich. And it's not, I can guarantee you, it's not that if you have big piles of money, you're going to have big piles of happiness. It doesn't work that way. So we're in it for the enjoyment, we're in it for the independence, we're in it for control, but we're under control, we have zero independence, and the enjoyment is spiritual. It's very, very, very. So it's just not the correct solution. It doesn't fit the circumstances. But as misled living beings, or illusion living beings, and how we get to be illusion living beings is a topic for another day, perhaps. Or at least it'll take a while. But in our present state of illusion, we're imagining that we can be something we're not. We are by nature spiritual beings. We do by nature have a connection with Krishna, or with God, or with the absolute truth. You can't just erase it by wishful thinking. But the mentality is like that. And there's Paradise Lost, John Milton. He has a line where Lucifer says, better to reign in hell, than serve in heaven. That's the mentality. I'd rather be the king of hell than a servant of God in heaven. Well, that'll bring you here. We can all reign in hell. My spiritual master one time was asked about how here while he was in London. He said, London is hell. No sun. Yes?
Thank you for everything you said so far, Maharaj. I just had a question, I guess, following on from what he said. So, if the soul is such a ananda, so it's full of knowledge, right? Why?
If it's full of?
Knowledge. Wouldn't it have known that the best place, or the place with the most happiness, would have been with Krishna in the spiritual world? So why would it ever want to?
If the soul is full of knowledge, wouldn't it know that the best place to be is with Krishna? Why would it come here? Avritam jnanam etena jnanino nityavairina. Our knowledge is there, but it's covered. Why is it covered? Because it's tiny. We're full of knowledge by nature. It's said that we're made of eternal knowledge, but it's tiny. Like a spark. A spark is made of fire. Why does it go out? Because it's tiny. And a big blazing fire doesn't get extinguished by a blast of wind or something like that. It's powerful. The little spark, gone, because of its tiny size. So we have the same nature of Krishna. Krishna is full of knowledge. We're full of knowledge. Krishna is blissful by nature. Our nature is to be blissful. Krishna is eternal. We're eternal by nature. But Krishna's fullness is infinite, and our fullness is infinitesimal. So we can be covered by illusion. Why? Because we have independence, and independence means that we can have our own desires as we like, and when that capability to desire is misplaced, when we misplace it, then we get covered. Any one of our students may be brilliant. You may have really top-class knowledge. But after 2 hours in the pub, where is that knowledge? It's still there somewhere, but it's covered. Why is it covered? Because you went there. You could have gone, someplace else. But you decided to go there, and as a consequence, your very good knowledge is now covered. It works like that. Yes. Okay.
How can we serve Krishna without committing offenses?
How can we serve Krishna without committing offenses? By sincerity and by knowledge. Our devotees in Watford sometimes meet with royalty. I don't know about Vishaka, our present president, but Sriti Dharma, our previous president, met with, then the Queen. And they tell you, when she comes in, you stand. The first time you speak to her, you address her as Your Majesty, and after that as ma'am. There's all these rules, and they tell you. And if you know them, then you won't commit offenses. You won't call her sweetheart. You won't, whatever it is. So knowledge and then sincerity. You want to act suitably for the occasion. So it's your sincere desire and knowledge. If you don't know, you'll wind up perhaps doing something unsuitable. And if you don't care, then you definitely will. Somehow you get an audience with the Queen and you give her a piece of your mind. Well, okay, that's your last audience. Is that okay? Mm-hmm.
Going back to the self-realisation.
Oh, you have a very soft voice.
Sorry. Why would Krishna make the material world full of suffering if our desire was to be without him?
Why would Krishna make the material world full of suffering and?
If our desire was to be without him.
And
if our desire was to be without
if our
him.
desire was to be without him. It's a consequence of being without him. Just like a child. I was with my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, in an airport one time. He was leaving for somewhere. There were a whole batch of us, disciples. And there was one lady who had a little child, still in nappies, as you would say here. And the child began, we're all waiting there and for something. I forget whether we were waiting for the tickets to be checked or where we were. In those days, you could go all the way up to the gates, and so we were with Prabhupada. And the child began to explore. He starts walking around, exploring. Prabhupada said, "Oh, he is very brave. Very brave." And then after about a minute of exploring, the child didn't see his mother, and his face began to crumple, and he began to cry. Prabhupada said, that's our position. As long as the child felt protected by the mother, the child was fine. And as soon as the child decided to be independent, he's in trouble. Well, that's our position. It's not that we have to be in a place where there's suffering. We choose to be in a place where there's suffering. I'll give you another example. Prabhupada was in, we have a rural community in America, New Vrindavan. And Prabhupada was initiating some disciples and performing a little ceremony with fire and so on to complete the formalities. And he was building a little fire with sticks and some ghee and flame. And at one point while he was doing that, he sort of took one of the sticks and just scraped a little sand off, because they're building the fire on a little sandy platform, and held it up. He said, "This is very instructive." It's a stick. He's holding up a stick. "This is very instructive." All right, well, what's the instruction? On the stick there was a dead moth. Prabhupada said, "The fire does not jump out at the moth. The moth rushes into the fire." Now the moth thinks, "This is great, look how shiny it is. Nice and warm and shiny. Let me fly there." And so the moth dies, because it's fire. We think we're going to enjoy, but instead we create our own misery. Or we can use our independence the opposite way, and from misery we can come to a natural position of happiness.
So you were speaking about how the human being has an ability to self-realize, to connect to divinity. But let's say I'm someone who's born in terrible circumstances, born in an atheist family, born in a family of crime. How do I avoid being a two-legged animal? Because it's very difficult in that circumstance.
Suppose I'm born in a family of criminal, atheists, ignorant, miserable, and so on. I'm born in circumstances like that. Well, then how do I avoid? How do I become self-realized? Or I don't have the opportunity, right? That's the question. And there are two answers, or at least two thoughts that come to mind. First thing is, why are you in that family? Why did you take birth in a totalitarian, atheistic state with thoroughly materialistic parents, and or with no education, or whatever the circumstances are that we're listing as being blocks to spiritual? Why did I take that? On account of my previous activities and my previous desire. I dedicated myself to that kind of mentality, and so in the next life, here you're right at home. Welcome to the place where everything is matter, where there's no such thing as spirit, where God is some nonsense created by fools. I wanted it, I got it. This is the birth I bargained for. Another answer is that even in such circumstances, a fortunate person can still become Krishna conscious. And we've seen that practically in Russia and China and so on. Somehow people from those backgrounds still get the opportunity. That depends on the kindness of a devotee, that he sees, well, these people aren't getting anything, let me do something. Just as there may be some village and people have no education, but some teachers decide, we're going to go there and do something, and they do, and the person becomes educated. So even though, as a consequence of our previous mentality or activities, we may be born in a difficult place, difficult circumstance, still one can become Krishna conscious. There's no material barrier. Anyone in any human body can become, even sometimes the animals become Krishna conscious. Without inquiry, without it, but somehow or other they come in touch with spiritual sound, they hear the mantra, they take prasad, maybe they even do some service. And there's famous stories about animals that have rendered service to Krishna. So in spite of the disadvantage of that birth, they can do it.
So this kindness or listening to spiritual sound, is it random? Like I just walked past and I heard someone chanting the Hare Krishna Maha mantra? Or
Is it random, this receipt of kindness? I just walk down the street and I hear someone chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, I get a book or whatever. Is it just random? Again, there's more than one answer. One may be that on account of my previous activities. And that's mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, that suppose I get 60% of my progress completed in this lifetime. It's not wiped out, so that in the next lifetime it said start from zero again. Materially, it's like that. You made £1 million in this life. Well, sorry, go back and start from zero in your next life. But spiritually, whatever credit we've accumulated is our permanent asset. So it may appear to be random, it may appear to be just happenstance. But no, there's a reason. You've gone this far, and now you're getting the opportunity again to continue. We began it. From one point of view, we can explain why are you all here and why is nobody else here? You must have had some previous credit. You must have pursued this in your previous life up to some extent. Now you're getting the opportunity to go further. And if you don't finish it in this life, wherever you end up, that becomes your starting place for the next life. And of course, therefore, arguably we should finish it. We've come this far, let's finish the job and not blow it again. So that's one answer, that it's not random, it's on account of our previous background. And another answer is that by the kindness of a devotee, it can be random also. Somebody with no credit, no past background, no nothing, the devotee just wants to be kind, and he says, here, I've got a mantra for you. I've got a book for you. I've got something for you. Just random. Just because the devotee wants to be kind, he distributes without consideration. Here, let's take it. Okay? Yes?
You mentioned live like an animal, will come back as an animal. Does that mean, is that our free will, or is that our karma to live that life as an animal?
If we want to live as an animal, we'll come back as an animal. Is that our free will, or is it our karma? Well, it's our free will to act in such and such a way, and then it's our karma. You acted this way, like putting your hand in the fire. Out of free will, you put your hand in the fire, and out of karma, your hand gets burned.
Is that like the karma from the last life?
Yeah, that also. Why did you put your hand in the fire? It becomes very complex to trace this out over millions of lifetimes. Why are we doing this and this and this? And it's, well, because of that, but the seed of it is our own misuse of independence. And so, which means free will, agency. And we still retain some small degree of independence, of agency. So at any point we can turn toward light, we can turn toward darkness. Small bit of free, and there's a nice argument about that. One of the, well, I won't go into that argument, even though it's nice. But it is up to us. We have a little free will. Otherwise, Krishna wouldn't speak Bhagavad Gita. He wouldn't tell Arjuna, my dear Arjuna, do this, if Arjuna is totally under the laws of karma. He'd have to talk to the karmic authorities, let Arjuna do this. But he's speaking to Arjuna. Arjuna, do this. That implies that Arjuna can do it or not do it. And Krishna says, Yateshchasi Tatakrur, I've spoken to you Bhagavad Gita, now do as you like. It means he has agency.
Thank you, Marge, for sharing so much wisdom. We kind of touched on free will, we kind of exercised on it. But sometimes in today's society, it feels like free will is inhibited. We don't always act fully consciously. So what advice can you have for our students to be more conscious and be more aware of what we're actually doing?
We have free will, but sometimes it seems that our free will is impeded. So what to do? Therefore, Krishna consciousness is there. It's very interesting. I asked a saintly person one time, we know we have some free will, but when it gets down to little practical things, like I'm standing in front of a fruit store, do I buy an orange or do I buy an apple? Is that really my free will, or is it because of my past karma? You're definitely just going to, you're destined to buy the apple. I asked him that question. And he gave an interesting answer. He said that your free will is proportionate to the qualities of nature that you've acquired. And nature is explained in Bhagavad Gita to have three qualities: the quality of goodness, the quality of passion, the quality of ignorance. If we're covered by the quality of ignorance, our free will is going to be at the minimum. Do you want to buy an apple or an orange? If I'm, dead drunk, free will hardly enters into the picture. Too covered. If one is in passion, then there's greater choice. But one's choice is going to be very much dictated by his passions. He knows that this is healthy, but this tastes good. He knows that if he gets into this relationship, the girl's husband may kill him. And still he does it. Arjuna asked in Bhagavad Gita, what is it that forces a person to act against his will even when he knows better? Krishna says it's strength of passion, kama. So in passion we're not in ignorance, we're above, but still our independence is limited by those passions. Hamlet says, give me that man that is not passion's slave. And when we come to goodness, then you have more freedom. You look at the same thing the passionate person looks at, and you analyze it. Does this make sense? Does it not make sense? Is this uplifting or is it degrading? Because you're peaceful, because you have wisdom, because you're self-controlled, because your mind is under your control, your senses are under your control, because you're detached. So in that kind of condition, you have much more freedom than the person who's passion's slave. And then when you come to the transcendental platform, you have the greatest extent of freedom. So Krishna tells Arjuna, Nistrigunya Bhavarjuna, rise above these three qualities and come to the transcendental platform. So by chanting Hare Krishna, by hearing.
Going back to when you said, when you talked about the mother and the child, the mother is Krishna and us jivas being the child. Surely if Krishna was a good mother, right, wouldn't he keep the child close to him or in like a trolley or something?
Yeah. If Krishna's like the attentive, caring mother, wouldn't he keep us in a trolley or something? Why would he let us? Because we're insistent. Prabhupada gave the example of switching to father. The child says, the child wants to put his hand in the fan. Father says, don't do that, you'll hurt yourself. But the child, he wants to insist it. Finally, all right. It's called learning the hard way. If Krishna absolutely controls you, your freedom is gone. And you have no agency, you have no free choice.
That's a good thing, though.
Hmm?
If Krishna completely controls you, then.
When Krishna completely controls you then, yes. But we, to put it in a different way, we're parts of Krishna, and Krishna has full independence. We have a little independence. And Krishna doesn't take that away. If he takes it away, yeah, you'll always do exactly the right thing, but you'll have no autonomy. If you marry someone and somehow there's some law that requires that you have absolute love for her, that then could do it. I don't mean a British law, but some, then there'd be no freedom. The freedom comes from your voluntary devotion to your wife.
How can we practice spirituality with sincerity and not simply adopting the term spiritual because we see within social media?
How can we adopt spiritual life with sincerity and not be
adopting the term simply for the sake of adopting it, because we see within social media.
Not adopting it because we want to be trendy or because it's in social media or because all of our friends are urging us or what have you. We hope some element of sincerity is already within us to begin with. If we're sincere and we associate with spiritually minded persons, then our sincerity will grow. You can say that's peer pressure. Well, it's, what would you say? Good peer pressure, or it's good, not pressure, but it's the opportunity that we get by associating with, just like if you're sincere here at LSC, have you all come from sincerity, whatever your motive, you want to get an education. And some of you think that maybe this is going to give me greater understanding of the world. Some of you think this is going to give me more bucks. Some of you are thinking it'll give me better standing in society. Some of you are thinking, I just want to know this. I want to get deep into this. I'm enchanted by this. Whatever it is, you have some sincerity. You're into it. But then what do you have to do? If you can go on being sincere for the rest of your life, but if you enroll in LSC, you associate with the professors who offer this kind of knowledge, you associate with other students who are also serious about education, you'll learn. So much. It's not exactly peer pressure. Your professor is not a peer. And even the peers, it's up to you still. You can say, phooey on LSC, I'm going to go out and do something else. It's entirely up to you. But you came here because you were looking for something. And if you associate with those who are also sincerely looking for something, then it strengthens your resolve. So one is advised to associate with saintly persons. One is advised to associate with those who are practicing bhakti yoga. One is advised to look for a person who's very advanced in spiritual understanding, so that advancement will rub off on you, or you'll get understanding by which your sincerity will be nurtured. Is that okay? Good. And now we're 8 o'clock on the button. So thank you all very much.